Hi everyone and welcome back to the Flip Addiction. Well, today I've got a new project that started with a little trip out to the northern beaches. I spotted this pair of fairly large side tables online and I just knew they had great potential. Getting them into the car was a bit of a struggle. I'm pretty sure I put my back out doing that, but it was totally worth the effort. Once I got them home, I checked them out structurally and they were in great shape. The drawers slid in and out beautifully, which is always a win because it saves heaps of time on repairs. On the outside though, they'd definitely seen better days. There were a few scratches, which is to be expected, and on the bottom of the drawers there was some water damage which was causing the vinyl to peer. So nothing too scary, but definitely a project that I could sink my teeth into. So let's get started. So my original plan for these side tables was to strip back the tops a bit. Not to remove the veneer completely, but just to take off the old shellac coating and hopefully lift some of the stain. That way I could get down closer to the natural wood and maybe give it a fresh stain or a whitewash, something lighter. So I grabbed some stripper, brushed on a nice even coat and then covered it with cling wrap to really let it do its thing and stop it from drying out. The instructions said to leave it for about an hour, so I figured that would be plenty of time. When I came back and scraped it off, a little bit of the finish did lift, but honestly it wasn't that much. The shellac and the stain were still clinging on and the surface didn't look all that different. It was a bit disappointing because I was hoping for more of a dramatic reveal, I guess. At that point, I decided the best thing to do was just give the tables a thorough clean. After the stripper, the surface always feels really sticky and grimy, so out came the bucket of soapy water and I gave them a good scrub from top to bottom. And of course, Charlie wanted to get in on the action, so it turned into a bit of a team clean effort. With all the gunk finally gone, they were ready for the next step. But before moving on, I had to do a quick little repair. I actually managed to drop one of the drawers, and of course the corner trim popped straight off. Not a huge deal though, I just grabbed some wood glue, clamped it down and let it dry. Nice and simple, and the drawer was back in shape in no time. Now, here's where I made a bit of a bad call. I was just feeling very impatient and I thought, why not just go ahead and paint it? I wanted that instant gratification. It's never a good idea. So instead of sanding or priming properly, I grabbed my brush and got straight to painting. And at first it looked fine, but once it dried, I realized my mistake. The paint was just scratching straight off. So lesson learned, shortcuts don't always pay off and skipping prep work always comes back to bite you. Well, at least it reminded me to slow down and do things the right order from here on out. Well, after that little painting fail, I decided to go back to my original plan and I wanted to scrape and sand down the tops properly so that I could hopefully restain or bring out that wood grain again. So I grabbed my scraper and sander and got to work. I also gave the rest of the piece a good scuff sand just to prep it for the paint or the finish that I end up going with. Well, I've been hand sanding this piece now for a while and it is not for the faint-hearted. It's hard work. Maybe if you do it all the time it gets easier, I'm not sure. But it's coming up pretty good, and then I thought maybe I can do the final sand with an actual sander, but I'm not sure if it's chipboard, so I don't want to sand straight through it. I've been wearing a respirator just to be safe. Anyway, this is how it's looking. But as I was scraping the top, I pushed a little too hard in one spot and went straight through the veneer. Underneath was just chipboard, and once that happened, I just knew that this stain was never going to happen. There was no saving it for that. So, plan scrapped again. At that point, painting the entire piece was really the only way forward. It wasn't what I had in mind at the start, but sometimes these flips, they just don't go as planned. You just got to roll with what the furniture gives you. Hi guys, so where my brother works, they have a CNC machine, and I asked him if he could cut these cute little scallops for me to add to one of my projects out of MDF. So this is what he gave me. He just said I need to go around and clean up the edges with Stanley knife, and then we can attach them to the piece I'm working on at the moment. Before I could attach this scallop trim, I needed to just clean up the edges so that everything would sit nice and flush against the side tables. When it came time to attach, I used a combo of wood glue and nails to make sure it really held on strong. To get that clean finished, I used a little trick. After hammering in the nails, I tapped them in again with a small screwdriver so that it makes a tiny little dent. And that way you can go back over those spots with wood filler and hide them completely. And after that, I thought I'd try my hand at caulking for the first time. And wow, it was messier than I expected. I spread it in, then I wiped away the excess with a damp cloth. And slowly I got the hang of it, and by the end, the trim looked pretty seamless, and it was starting to look like the tables I had envisioned at the start. So with the trim finished, it was finally time to move on to priming. I used my go-to primer, which is the Bin Shellac primer. I pretty much always keep this on hand because it sticks so well and it blocks out stains. And it gave these tables a really solid base coat to work from. Then came the exciting part, my favorite part, paints. I went in with a black milk paint by Rust-Oleum, and I put on a few coats and it started to transform this whole piece. It looks so good. The black really modernized them and gave them a bold, clean finish. Once the paint was on, I realized that I really wasn't loving the old hardware with the new look. The handles that it came with just really didn't suit it at all. So I filled the old hardware holes with wood filler and sanded them smooth a couple of times and painted black over that area to blend everything in. And finally, I added these gorgeous new handles that I found on Amazon, and instantly they tied the whole makeover together. The contrast between the black paint and the gold hardware gave the tables such a nice updated look. So for finishing touches, I used a little feed and wax on the top trays. That just helps them to slide smoothly, and it gives the wood a bit of nourishment, and it smells really good. And then I sealed everything with a Dulux sealer to protect the paint and to keep that finish looking really fresh. And finally, it was staging time. Honestly, this is always my favorite part, seeing the pieces all styled up after all that work has gone into them. These side tables turned out so good, so much better than what I imagined when I first picked them up. Even though it wasn't my original plan to paint the whole thing, I still think it turned out really good. And the best part is, as soon as I listed them, they sold right away for $200. So not only did I get to give them a second life, but it was also a really quick flip, which is always such a win. So that's the full makeover for these side tables. I'd love to know what you think of the finished look. Would you have painted them, or would you have tried to save the top veneer? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this flip, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so that you don't miss the next project. I've got plenty more flips coming your way, and I can't wait to share them with you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.